After nearly 11 years of disagreement, the government now controls 38 Oxley Road. But did anyone actually win a legal battle? Not in the traditional courtroom sense. There was no reported court judgment declaring one side the winner. Instead, the government completed a lawful compulsory acquisition process and took possession of the property on July 31st, 2026. The house was the family home of Singapore's founding Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew. It was also where important meetings connected to the early People's Action Party were held. The disagreement began with Lee Kuan Yew's wish that the house be demolished after his daughter, Lee Wei-ling, no longer lived there. Following her death in October 2024, Lee Hsien Yang submitted an application to demolish the building. However, the National Heritage Board began assessing whether the site should be protected for its national significance. Lee Hsien Yang later objected to the plan to declare it a national monument. He argued that preserving the property would go against his father's clearly stated wishes. The government took a different view. It gazetted the site as a national monument in December 2025. It then gazetted the land for acquisition in January 2026. 6 months later, the acquisition was completed. So, in practical terms, the government prevailed over what will happen to the site. Lee Hsien Yang's preferred outcome of demolishing the property will not proceed under his control. But this does not mean every part of the house will necessarily be preserved exactly as it is. The authorities said the National Heritage Board will study how the land could become a public space while respecting Lee Kuan Yew's wish for family privacy. They have also promised that the private living spaces will not be displayed, recorded, recreated, or copied elsewhere. This creates an important distinction. The government is protecting the site's historical value, but it may still remove the deeply personal parts of the home. The final design has not been announced, and the public cannot enter the property while studies and maintenance work continue. There is also a wider question about ownership and national heritage. Private owners normally decide what happens to their properties. However, Singapore law allows the state to acquire land for a public purpose, with compensation determined through the legal process. An owner may challenge the compensation awarded, but that does not automatically stop the acquisition. That is why describing this simply as one brother defeating another may be misleading. The final decision was made by the government, not by Lee Hsien Yang personally. The authorities have also said that Lee Hsien Yang and the Attorney General had recused themselves from matters involving the acquisition. My view is that the government has won control of the property, but the historical argument remains unresolved. Some Singaporeans will believe a national landmark should belong to future generations. Others will say Lee Kuan Yew's final wishes should have carried greater weight, especially when those wishes concerned his own home. Which should matter more, a property owner's final wishes or a government's responsibility to preserve national history? Share your view below and support 2230 by liking, sharing, and subscribing for more trusted Singapore news explainers.